Today I want to tell you about a book called Small Spaces by Katherine Arden. Our main character is Olivia Adler, and as the book begins, Ollie's school day has come to an end, and mercifully it is time to go home. Ollie cannot wait to get out of there, but as she is leaving the building, she sees her classmate, Coco Zintner, jumping up and down, attempting to retrieve her notebook from the clutches of Phil Greenblatt. I want to read you a few paragraphs just to give you an idea of what the book is like. "Give it back," yelled Coco through her tears. She snatched again. Phil was waving the notebook right over her head, laughing. The sixth grade was laughing too, and now Ollie could see what they were looking at. It was a picture, a good picture, Coco could really draw, of Brian and Coco's faces nestled together with a heart around them. Phil sat behind Coco in math class. He must have seen her drawing. Poor dumb Coco. Why would you do that if you were sitting in front of nosy Philip Greenblatt? "Come on, Brian," Mike was saying. "Don't you want to go out with hot Coco here?" Coco looked like she wanted to run away, except that she really wanted her notebook back. And Ollie had pretty much had enough of the whole situation, and so she bent down, got her moderate-sized rock, and let it fly. Numbers and throwing things, those were the two talents of Olivia Adler. She'd quit the softball team last year, but her aim was still on. Her rock caught Brian squarely in the back of the head, dropped him thump onto the grass, and turned everyone's attention from Coco Zintner to her. Ideally, Ollie would have hit Phil, but Phil was facing her and Ollie didn't want to put out an eye. Besides, she didn't have a lot of sympathy for Brian. He knew perfectly well that he was the best at hockey, and half the girls giggled about him, and he wasn't coming to Coco's rescue, even though he'd more or less gotten her into this with his dumb friends and his dumb, charming smile. Ollie crossed her arms, thought in her mom's voice, "Well, in for a penny," hefted another rock, and said, "Oops, my hand slipped." The entire sixth grade was staring. The kids in the front started backing away. A lot of them thought she had cracked since last year. Seriously, guys," she said. "Doesn't anyone have anything better to do?" Coco Zintner took advantage of Phil's distraction to snatch her notebook back. She gave Ollie a long look and darted away. Ollie thought, "I'm gonna have detention for a year." And then Brian got up, spitting out dirt, and said, "That was a pretty good throw." The noise began. Miss Mountain, the day's lawn monitor, finally noticed the commotion. "Now," she said, hurrying over, now. Mrs. Mountain was the librarian, and she was not the best lawn monitor. Ollie decided that she wasn't going to say sorry or anything. Let them call her dad, let them shake their heads, let them give her detention tomorrow. At least tomorrow the weather would change and she would not be stuck in school on a nice day answering questions. Ollie jumped onto her bike and raced out of the schoolyard, wheels spitting gravel, before anyone could tell her to stop. So not yet ready to go home, Ollie decides to go to the swimming hole, which is her favorite place to be alone and read her books. Ever since her mom died, Ollie prefers books to people. Books don't look at her with a too sympathetic face or call her that poor little thing. But when she gets there, Ollie is surprised to see a woman clutching a book and sobbing inconsolably. The woman is insisting that she has to throw the book into the water to get rid of it forever. But Ollie is horrified at the idea of throwing a book away. She snatches it out of the woman's grasp and runs away. The book is called Small Spaces, and it was written in 1895. It begins with a letter from a woman named Beth Brewster to her daughter Margaret. In the letter, Beth promises that everything she has written in the book is completely true, and she alludes to a family curse that is connected to their farm and someone she refers to as the Smiling Man. Ollie is intrigued, and she continues reading the book until she falls asleep. The next day, Ollie just wants to stay in bed and continue reading her book, but much to her dismay, her father forces her to go to school. She's already in trouble for the rock throwing incident the day before, so her pleas that she is sick and needs to stay home fall on deaf ears. It just so happens to be the day of the sixth grade field trip to Misty Valley Farm. The purpose of the field trip is to learn about agriculture, but the class is much more interested in the ghost stories surrounding the farm. Supposedly, it's haunted by the ghost of a woman whose husband and brother-in-law disappeared without a trace back in the 1800s. The woman swore that her husband wasn't dead, that he was still on the farm. And after she died, her ghost remained, still searching for her lost husband. Soon after, a school on the property burned down with children inside, but their remains were never found, as if they too had disappeared. All of this is pretty disturbing, but Ollie gets the shock of her life when they arrive at the farm. Linda Webster, the owner of the farm, is there to greet them, and Ollie recognized her immediately as the crying woman from the day before whose book she had stolen. She knows there must be a connection between the book and the ghost story, but what is it? I don't want to tell you too much more about the plot, but I will say that the 6th grade does not make it back to school that day. Ollie, Coco, and Brian are separated from the rest of the group, and they have to survive the night on their own, and the farm only gets creepier when the sun goes down. In order to save their classmates, the 3 will have to solve a centuries-old mystery and contend with supernatural forces that stand in their way. This is most definitely a creepy story that will make you want to sleep with your nightlight on and maybe never look at scarecrows the same way again. But it's also about coping with grief when a loved one passes away. I really loved Ollie, and I thought the story was very unique, and I'm very excited to continue reading the rest of the series. So if you're the type of reader who enjoys Halloween vibes all year round, pick up Small Spaces by Katherine Arden. Thanks.